So in your book, you interview different authors, or different actors, I'm sorry, about their works. Could you share some of that with us? Or?
Oh, surely. I've picked out 3 or 4 short ones.
Okay.
And these are just commentary by actors. The first one is from Kevin Kline, and I think you know who Kevin Kline is, but he has an Oscar for a comedy role on film, A Fish Called Wanda.
Very funny.
And he's got at least 15 very well-known roles on film. Dave now, In and Out. He has a new film coming out, in fact, this week, called The Extra Man. Comedies, soap, and dark tragedies, and all kinds of Silverado, a Western. In any case, this little commentary is from the very first time he played Hamlet, and you can kind of see the emerging star in this particular paragraph. He's gone into rehearsal, and here's what he says about this first rehearsal. I once had a director who said in opening remarks to the cast, "Good morning. My single rule is you only breathe at a full stop or colon. No breathing on the commas or semicolons." Well, everybody was hyperventilating for the first 2 weeks of rehearsal. After the second rehearsal, I said, "You know, I'm going to do all that at home. When I come in here, I'm going to rehearse, okay?" The director was kind of appalled. Some guys feel that the more constricted their canvas is, the more creative it forces them to be. But I can't be thinking about breathing on schedule. And so that tells you a little bit about what is happening in a Shakespearean text, because they talk a lot about how it's punctuated and should that guide the actor and all those sorts of things. And this is one of the ways that he came to his own conclusion about how that should be done. This next one is a commentary from Kenneth Branagh, who is not just a stage actor, but also a film actor and a film director. And he's pretty much shown us in the 20th and 21st century how Shakespeare should be done on film. And he has half a dozen that are just absolute hallmark, you gotta show them in class kinds of productions, including Hamlet, Henry V, delightful Much Ado About Nothing, a number of them that are really useful for teachers in class, because the people who are on film look like they're having a heck of a fine time, and you want that when you're teaching Shakespearean performance. Here he's talking about what he did when he was preparing to perform on stage Henry V. And he starts by reading all of the footnotey editions of Shakespeare, and then he goes and reads all the scholars who have made comments about Shakespeare, and then he does a really kind of interesting thing. Also, I spoke with Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, and it was a sort of scavenging about the play. I found the visit very valuable. I carried away a sense of atmosphere in talking with someone like that. It was a search for the internal qualities of princeliness. A question of being aware of his deportment, of his gravitational weight, what he thought and how he considered things. He was very distinct from other people, up close and tangible, and it had to do with carrying the burden of responsibility and of service that at times must really feel excessive. All that affected my body language and the look in the eye, and so impacted me greatly when I performed the role of Henry V. I wanted to meet Prince Charles because there was this separateness, an isolation or loneliness or melancholy that seemed always to be absolutely right through the lines in the play, in direct or indirect ways. I needed to find out what I could bring on a human level that is also promoted by the text. Anyhow, it was very helpful for me. I go through the same process to discover the inside of a character. It's a kind of an interesting comment because this young man is also extremely entrepreneurial. And he was an Irishman who came to London, got a scholarship to RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and then immediately set up his own theater company. And lo and behold, who should show up on the board of directors but the Prince of Wales?
Nice to start with a few connections.
That's a good businessman. And that sense of networking is very important for young acting students to know about. They learn very early on, you never make a nasty comment about anyone. You always say yes. And as Sir Derek, who I'm going to read from next, always said, you always take the next role. You're always in work. So that was one of his secrets of success. And this is a commentary, as I said, about from Derek Jacobi. And he's making a statement about the whole of acting Shakespeare. He's generalizing here, but he has something interesting to say. The trouble with most actors, and with a lot of very, very good actors, is that in the presence of Shakespeare, all their instinctive techniques and skills seem to desert them. They put on a voice, they put on a walk, they put on a manner, and it all starts to go classical. Everything goes wrong. All the things they would normally do in a play, a flesh and blood modern play, all that reality, all that imagination, all that talent, all that theory, all that recreation of a text seems to vanish. They think they're reading the Bible. Directors and voice teachers encourage this, I think. The voice school, the classical school. In a modern play, the voice is informed with tonality. You can hear the comment on the lines in the voice. You can hear someone say, I love you, knowing that they hate the person they've said it to. So if you speak the line da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, following the verse, or if you assume an artificial voice, you cannot do any of that expressing. So there he is again. Most of these actors are at the stage where they are mentors to younger actors, and they have a lot to say to each other about acting as well. But he's giving good advice to students and people coming along in the acting biz. This final comment I've chosen because it's by an actor named Stacy Keach. And if you saw movies in the 70s and 80s when we were growing up, he was a really sexy guy that did a lot of road movies and stuff like that. And then he did Mike Hammer and some detective series and a couple of broad comedies. But I wanted to include him because in the summertime, when he was working on his bachelor's degree at the University of California at Berkeley, he came to Ashland and was cast in a half a dozen really major roles at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So he's talking in this comment about some people that he met here in Ashland. Gertrude Bowmer was an extraordinary woman. On the first day in early June, once you had deposited your luggage in the housing accommodations, you went off to the first session. She would go around the room, some 40 actors in all that time, plus tech crews and administrative staff, introducing each person, giving a little fact or two about each, without a single note in her hand. She welcomed everyone to the season. Angus Bowmer himself was a larger-than-life character with a great sense of humor. Another Ashland icon was Marjorie Bailey, a professor from Stanford who taught a Shakespeare Institute there every summer. And we know her from the donation of books that she made and from the collection now at the Hannon Library on the Southern Oregon University campus. She seemed to have every word of Shakespeare captured in her brain. I met her only once and sat in on a class she was doing. She had presence and authority. Alas, the actors never had any verse training from her. Rather, we did that work with the directors, and it wasn't as extensive as it is today. But he goes on in his chapter to talk about how extensive it is today. And each of these people has a different way of working, a different set of preferences,